That morning in Evergreen Estates started exactly like every other one. Sunlight filtering through perfectly trimmed hedges that the HOA bylaws demanded stay exactly 2.5 inches tall. No exceptions. I was in the middle of prepping for the monthly Zoom HOA board meeting when my laptop decided to throw its usual tantrum and freeze solid. It had been glitchy for days. Probably from all those community violation alerts Karen loved blasting into everyone's inboxes at 6 a.m. I sighed, glanced at Daniel, still scrolling on his phone in the kitchen, and asked if I could borrow his for just 30 minutes. He hesitated, only for a heartbeat, then shrugged without looking up. "It's on the dining table," he muttered. I grabbed it, logged in with the password that was still my birthday, and smiled bitterly to myself. Silly little things like that used to feel like love. The meeting kicked off. I kept my camera off because, honestly, who gets dressed up for Karen's weekly lecture on proper court appeal? I turned the volume down and opened a notepad, ready to jot the usual nonsense about flagpole heights and mailbox uniformity. That's when the soft ping hit the top corner of the screen. I figured it was just another HO, a reminder, or maybe Daniel's work calendar. The subject line stopped my breath cold. Rosewood Suite confirmed. Rosewood? That name rang a bell from somewhere in our little slice of suburban hell. I clicked. I really wish I hadn't. The email opened like a slap. Luxury hotel reservation. 2 nights. Honeymoon suite. Champagne on arrival. Check-in last weekend. The exact weekend Daniel claimed he had an emergency client strategy session that kept him out overnight. My mouth went dry. I scrolled. Attached were 3 photos that ripped the ground out from under me. First, the suite itself. Gold pillows. Red rose on the bed. The kind of place that screamed money the HOA would fine you for even dreaming about. Second, Daniel. Shirtless. Leaning back against those white pillows with that lazy smirk I used to think was only for me. I recognized the necklace I gave him 2 anniversaries ago. Third photo, my fingers actually trembled when I enlarged it. A woman in the bed beside him. Brown waves of hair, sipping wine, face half-turned. But I knew that silver anklet. I knew the tiny birthmark on her shoulder. It was Karen. President Karen Whitaker. The iron-fisted ruler of Evergreen Estates. The same woman who once cried on my shoulder for weeks after her messy divorce, calling me the sister I never had. I don't remember breathing for the next 10 seconds. The Zoom droned on in the background, Karen's voice, all sugar and fake concern, lecturing poor old Mr. Henderson about his offensive garden gnome. I just stared at the screen until the screensaver kicked in and swallowed the evidence. Daniel was still in the living room, chuckling at some video on his phone like our entire life wasn't now on fire. I walked past him, clutching his laptop like it might explode. "Everything okay?" he asked without really looking. I forced the smile I perfected over the last few months of escalating fines. "Yeah, just tired." He nodded and went back to his screen. I locked myself in the bedroom, placed the laptop on the bed, and stared at the floor while everything inside me screamed. 2 weeks ago, everything still looked normal on the surface. Daniel and I had settled into that quiet married rhythm everyone in Evergreen Estates pretended was perfect. He'd been coming home later and later, always blaming HOA committee stuff or traffic. I never questioned it. Why would I? We shared passwords, shared a joint account, shared a life. We'd stopped talking about trying for another baby after the 3rd miscarriage last year. Grief had quietly replaced passion, or so I thought. Karen had been calling more often lately, ever since her divorce. Some days, she sounded like the strong, independent president who fined you for a single dandelion. Other days, she'd sob on the phone about growing old alone. I'd been the one to offer her our guest room for a few days. "You need a break from all the stress," I told her. Daniel had muttered something about work being crazy that week, so we never followed through. Looking back, That hesitation now tasted like poison. The walls of her cookie-cutter house felt like they were shrinking. Karen wasn't just the HOA president. She was the woman I'd comforted through late-night crying sessions. The one who'd once said, "At least you got lucky with a man like Daniel." Lucky. The word burned now. I ended the Zoom early with some lame excuse about migraine. Outside the bedroom door, Daniel laughed at his phone like nothing had changed. Inside, I was already mapping every tiny sign I'd ignored. The stronger cologne he suddenly wore. The way his phone never left his pocket anymore. Not even to the bathroom. The late-night texts he'd angle away from me. Just the guys from the board, he'd mumble. And Karen, always checking in on me after slapping another violation notice on our door for my illegal hanging flower basket. The same Karen who preached community standards while apparently using community money for champagne suites. I sat there until the sun dipped behind the perfectly uniform roofs of evergreen estates. The neighborhood Karen ruled like a queen. Little did she know her reign was about to crack wide open. But I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things. I'd learned from years of her petty fines. The best revenge in this HOA hell is patience, evidence, and the sweetest, most public kind of exposure. I whispered to the empty room, "You wanted rules, Karen? Let's play by them." The signs had been there all along. Tiny cracks in the perfect HOA facade I'd been too trusting to notice. A few months back, Karen's divorce had hit the neighborhood like a scandal. Her ex had run off with a younger woman, leaving her broke and bitter. I'd been the one driving her to lawyer meetings, bringing casseroles, letting her vent for hours on my couch while Daniel nodded sympathetically from the doorway. "You're so lucky," she'd sob. "Daniel's one of the good ones." I believed her. Hell, I'd bragged about how close the three of us were, like family. Now, those memories tasted like spoiled milk. Daniel started changing right around the time Karen took the HOA presidency. More cologne. Heavier. Expensive. The kind that lingered on his shirts when he came home from those late board meetings. I'd tease him once while folding laundry. Trying to impress the ladies at the HOA, he'd smirked. "Just a sample from a client." Don't worry. I believed him because that's what wives in evergreen estates did. We trusted. Meanwhile, Karen began enforcing rules with new venom. My bird feeder? Violation. Unauthorized wildlife attraction. My husband's truck parked 2 inches over the driveway line. $50 fine. Courtesy of President Karen's personal inspection. She'd smile sweetly at neighborhood meetings. We all have to maintain standards. Emily. For the community. The same community whose dues apparently paid for her secret weekends. I found a first receipt in Daniel's jeans pocket while doing laundry. Room service at Rosewood, suite level. No name, but the total made my eyes water. I almost tossed it, telling myself it was work. Then the bank statements. Large withdrawals every Friday for 3 months straight. Daniel had brushed it off. Investments. Helping a client flip a property. It'll come back double. I smiled then. Now I logged into our joint account with shaking hands and saw the pattern. Every withdrawal matched the dates Karen had been unreachable for weekend self-care. Rosewood. The name clicked like a trap, snapping shut. Karen had posted about it years ago on the HOA Facebook group, her 3rd anniversary trip before the divorce. Same gold pillows. Same jacuzzi. She knew that suite intimately. They both did. That same week, Karen had texted me, "You ever wonder if you really know the people closest to you?" I'd sent a laughing emoji. Now those words felt like a taunt. I started watching closer. Daniel's phone always face down. Karen's calls to me suddenly full of fake concern about my stress levels, right after she'd hit me with another fine for my porch light being too warm-toned. The hypocrisy was almost funny if it didn't make me want to scream. Here was the woman who once cried in my arms about betrayal, now sleeping with my husband while fining me for a single blade of grass out of place. Black humor at its finest. The HOA president preaching morality while breaking every vow in the book. I drove to Rosewood myself the next afternoon, dressed like a prospective guest. Hair pulled back, voice polite. The lobby smelled of money and lilies. I asked about sweets. The receptionist beamed. We recently hosted Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker. They loved the honeymoon package. Whitaker. Karen had kept her married name for professional HOA reasons. My stomach flipped. They hadn't even bothered to hide. They'd used her name like it was nothing. I smiled, asked for photos, made an excuse, and walked out before my legs gave out. Inside the car, I sat shaking, replaying every moment Karen had stood on my porch with her clipboard, smiling that tight little smile while slapping violations on my door. Just doing my job. Emily, we're all in this together. Together, right? Back home, Daniel was whistling in the kitchen, making tea like our marriage wasn't rotting from the inside. I walked past without a word. That night while he showered, his phone sat unlocked on the bed, an accident he'd never made before. The notification glowed. Missed you today. Counting down to next weekend. From a contact saved as Evelyn, board liaison. I opened the thread. Weeks of messages, voice notes, flirty plans, photos. It was them, Daniel and Karen. She wasn't saved under her real name, but the mirror selfie gave her away. New haircut, smug smile. One message. Next time let's try the rooftop view. She has no idea, right? His reply, not a clue. Thinks I'm at late meetings. Guilt's killing me, though. Her answer, we're not doing anything wrong. We just found comfort. That's not a sin. Comfort. That's what they call destroying my life. I screenshot everything, emailed it to myself, then walked out to the balcony needing air. 10 minutes later, Daniel emerged. Towel around his neck. Everything okay? I nodded. Voice steady. Just thinking. He kissed my forehead. I let him. The ease of pretending terrified me most. I was becoming as good a liar as they were. But mine was for survival. Theirs was for fun. The next morning, I called Karen from a block number, changing my voice. She picked up sleepy. Hi, this is Evergreen HOA updating our board contact list. She hung up fast. Later, I texted her from my real phone. Hey, everything okay? Been trying to reach you. No reply. That evening, Daniel came home with takeout, grinning about surprise balcony dinner. We sat there toasting like two actors in a bad play. Two liars at one table. Somewhere in the distance, a neighbor's lawnmower droned. The sound of another perfect Evergreen Estates day. But inside me, the countdown had started. I wasn't drowning anymore. I was planning. Days blurred into a quiet storm of evidence and fake smiles. Every morning I'd wake to another HOA violation notice on our door. Karen's handwriting on the envelope. Always that little heart dot over the I like she was being cute while bleeding me dry. Unauthorized solar-powered garden light. $75 fine. Grass height measured at 2.7 inches. Warning. The absurdity would have been hilarious if it wasn't personal. Karen was burying me in paperwork while she and Daniel were probably laughing about it over room service champagne. I kept every notice, photographed every timestamp. Pattern emerging, fine spiked right after their secret weekends. Coincidence? In Evergreen Estates, nothing was coincidence when Karen was involved. I visited my mother, the closest thing I had left. Old Mrs. Hargrove, 3 houses down. The neighborhood grandma who'd lived here since before the HOA even existed. I didn't tell Daniel. Just drove over early while he slept. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. What did that woman do now? I spilled everything. The emails, the photos, the messages, the money trail. Mrs. Hargrove's eyes hardened like steel. I knew it. Saw Daniel's car at the pharmacy last month. Karen came out holding his arm, laughing like teenagers. I told myself maybe it was nothing. Didn't want to tear the neighborhood apart. She sighed. But loneliness twists people. Emily. Karen's always been jealous. Quiet ones like you get the real life she craves. Doesn't excuse her. Doesn't excuse him. We sat on her old sofa, drinking tea, while she told stories of her own marriage. How some betrayals you forgive. Others you burn to the ground. Before I left, she cupped my face. You're not weak. You're not helpless. And you don't have to keep smiling for that board. Those words settled something cold and sharp inside me. Driving home, every absurd rule sign in the neighborhood, no pink flamingos, violation, looked like a joke now. Karen fined Mrs. Henderson $200 for one plastic flamingo last year, while her own backyard had an unpermitted hot tub nobody dared question. Hypocrisy, so thick you could spread it on toast. That night Daniel came home whistling again. I smiled, served dinner, asked about his board meeting like I cared. He lied smoothly. I lied smoother. Inside, I was already booking the Rosewood suite on his card, the exact honeymoon room, under the guise of a surprise anniversary getaway. Just us. I told him that evening, we need this. Time away from all the HOA stress. He blinked, surprised, then grinned. You plan something? That's new. No questions. Of course not. Then I set the trap for Karen. From a burner number, I texted as Evergreen HOA Events Coordinator, a fake title I invented. Congratulations. You've been randomly selected for a complimentary VIP recognition dinner and spa day at Rosewood for your outstanding service as president. Confirm your arrival time. She bid instantly. How thoughtful. 5:30 p.m. Works perfectly. I timed it perfectly. Daniel at 5 p.m. Karen at 5:30. I arrived early. Set up a small hidden camera on the side table pointed at the bed. Nothing fancy. Just enough to capture their faces when the mask fell. I wasn't posting it. This wasn't for the internet. This was for me. For the moment, I finally stopped being the quiet homeowner they both took for granted. I unpacked my real suitcase, not for a weekend, but for good. Clothes, documents, the folder with every screenshot, receipt, bank statement, and violation notice stapled like evidence in a trial. At 5 o'clock sharp, Daniel walked in, suitcase in hand, looking impressed. You really booked the honeymoon suite? This is nice. Eminencia. Didn't know you had this in you. I poured him wine. Smiled that same smile I'd worn for months. I wanted special. 5 minutes later, the knock came. His eyes narrowed. Expecting someone? No, I said calmly and opened the door. Karen stood there in her white blouse and designer jeans, purse swinging, ready for her VIP recognition. Her smile froze the second she saw me. Then she spotted Daniel behind me. Color drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. Daniel stood slowly, wine glass trembling. What the hell? I stepped aside. Come in. Both of you. They walked in like kids caught with their hands in the cookie jar. The cookie jar being my marriage and the entire HOA treasury. The air conditioner hummed. Nobody spoke. I raised a hand before either could start the excuses I knew were coming. I don't want tears. I don't want it just happened. I have the emails, the photos, the bank records, the messages where you called it comfort. I slid the envelope across the table, copies of everything. Daniel's hands shook opening it. Karen's eyes darted to the door like she was calculating escape routes. I turned to her last. You once told me I was lucky to have Daniel. You cried on my couch about betrayal. Then you became the betrayal. And while you were busy, you fined me for breathing too loud because you needed to look like the perfect president. I smiled for the first time with real feeling. Your bylaws don't cover adultery, Karen. But the neighborhood might have something to say about misusing dues for secret suites. She opened her mouth, probably the same scripted community standards speech she gave at every meeting. I cut her off with one sentence. You are no longer welcome in my life. And when I'm done, You won't be president of anything either. I picked up my bag, walked to the door, and left them standing in a room they'd used to destroy me. I didn't slam it. I didn't need to. The click was loud enough. Outside the rosewood lobby, the sunlight hit different, brighter, freer. I drove straight to Mrs. Hargroves and told her everything. She didn't gasp or cry. She just poured us both a stiff drink and said, "Good. Now let the neighborhood see what their perfect president really is." I didn't post the camera footage. I didn't need to. I emailed the entire evidence folder, screenshots, bank records, violation notices with timestamps proving the pattern, to every board member and 20 key homeowners. Subject line simple. Transparency for the community. Let them do the math. Let Karen explain why the fines against me spiked exactly when her secret weekends happened. Back at the house, I packed the rest of my things while Daniel's frantic calls went to voicemail. The neighborhood watch app blew up, people whispering about emergency board meeting. Karen tried calling too. Voice messages getting more desperate. "Emily, this is a misunderstanding. We can talk as friends." Friends. The word almost made me laugh out loud in the empty house. The same woman who'd fined me $150 for excessive holiday lights last Christmas now begging for mercy. By evening, the first text rolled in from neighbors. "Is this real? Karen's been doing what? We're calling an emergency vote." I didn't reply to any. I just sat on the porch, my porch, still technically watching the perfectly manicured lawns and thinking how absurd it all was. Here was the HOA that fined you for a crooked welcome mat, run by a woman who thought she could sleep with my husband and keep her throne. The black comedy of it hit me hard. Karen had spent years making everyone follow rules while breaking the biggest one herself. Now the rules were coming for her. Daniel showed up around midnight, eyes red, suitcase in hand like he expected me to forgive on sight. "Emily, please. It was a mistake." Karen meant nothing. I looked at him, the man I'd trusted with everything, and felt nothing but tired satisfaction. "You both used the same word, comfort. Funny how comfort costs HOA dues and my peace of mind." I handed him the final envelope, divorce papers I'd had drawn up that afternoon. "Sign them. Keep the house. Keep the fines. I'm done paying for your mistakes." He stood there sputtering. Across the street, lights flicked on in houses. Curtains moved. Evergreen Estates was watching. Karen's car pulled up 2 doors down at her own perfect McMansion, the one with the unpermitted hot tub nobody had dared report until now. I could see her silhouette through the window, pacing, probably deleting messages like a madwoman. The power she'd wielded for years was slipping faster than grass grows in summer. "Mrs. Hargrove called me the next morning. Board meetings tonight. They're voting her out. Want me to come over?" I smiled into the phone. "No need. I'm already free." That night, I watched from my car across the street as the emergency meeting spilled onto Karen's lawn, neighbors waving printed evidence, voices rising. Karen stood on her porch in her perfect president blazer, face pale, trying the same sweet smile that used to work. It didn't. Someone shouted, "How many of our dues paid for your little vacations?" Another, "You fined Emily for a bird feeder while you." The rest was drowned in angry murmurs. Daniel wasn't there. He'd already left town, tail between his legs. I didn't stay to watch the final vote. I didn't need to. The satisfaction wasn't in their screaming. It was in the quiet click of my suitcase closing, the engine starting, the rearview mirror showing Evergreen Estates growing smaller. Karen's kingdom was crumbling behind me, built on rules she never followed. I drove toward the highway, windows down, radio loud, laughing for the first time in months. Not at her, not at him, but at how long I'd let their game control me. The days after felt like waking from a long, ridiculous dream. I rented a small apartment just outside the HOA's reach. No bylaws, no violation notices, no Karen. My phone stayed quiet for exactly 48 hours before the texts started pouring in. Neighbors I barely knew sending apologies. We had no idea she was targeting you like that. The new board already repealed half her crazy rules. One even attached a screenshot of Karen's resignation letter. Short, stiff, full of personal reasons and zero accountability. Classic. The woman who'd spent years demanding transparency from everyone else couldn't even admit her own mess. I laughed reading it over coffee, real, bitter, satisfying laughter. The same Karen who once stood on my porch lecturing me about community harmony while secretly tearing my marriage apart was now the cautionary tale whispered at every block party. Remember when President Karen got caught? People would say it for years. The black humor of it never got old. The enforcer of every petty rule exposed as the biggest rule breaker of all. She'd fine me for a crooked mailbox while using community funds for hotel champagne. She'd preached family values while sleeping with my husband. And the best part? She never saw me coming. I'd played the quiet, compliant homeowner. She loved bullying until the exact moment I flipped the script. Daniel tried one last pathetic attempt. Flowers delivered to my new place with a card that read, "We can fix this." I sent them back with a single line. "Fix your own bylaws first." He never tried again. Last I heard, he moved to another state, probably still blaming stress for everything. Karen sold her McMansion at a loss. Rumor was the new board hit her with back fines for all the unpermitted upgrades she'd hidden. Poetic justice in HOA form. Mrs. Hargrove visited my new apartment last weekend, bringing homemade cookies and the latest neighborhood gossip. They replaced her with old Mr. Henderson. First thing he did was cancel all those ridiculous fines and add a no hypocrisy clause. We both laughed until our sides hurt. She patted my hand. "You did it the smart way, Emily. Quiet, patient, deadly." I didn't feel deadly. I felt free. Free from the endless rules, the fake smiles, the weight of pretending everything was fine while my life burned. Sometimes late at night, I still open the folder of evidence just to remind myself how close I came to staying silent forever. Then I close it, pour a glass of wine, no HOA to tell me what brand is appropriate, and toast the empty room. Not to revenge. To the moment I stopped being the victim and started being the one who walked away with her head high. Evergreen Estates still stands, perfect lawns, uniform mailboxes, the same cookie-cutter houses. But the queen is gone. The rules have loosened. And somewhere in a small apartment outside the gates, I sleep without checking my phone for violation alerts. No more whispered fears. No more pretending. Just the sweet, satisfying quiet of a woman who finally enforced the only rule that matters. Never let a Karen control your story. And that, my friends, is how the biggest bully in the Homeowners Association got taken down. Not with screaming or lawyers, but with the one thing she never expected from her quietest victim, the truth. Sweet, documented, and delivered straight to the suite where it all began. If your HOA has a Karen, remember this story. Stay quiet. Gather evidence. Then watch the empire fall. Because in the end, even the strictest bylaws can't protect you from your own secrets.